So some of you might know we've been finding accommodation on a platform called Workaway. The premise is you work for an agreed amount of hours each day in exchange for food and a bed. You might have seen in our other videos, the first gig we tried wasn't completely right for us, but that's not to say the same about this one. This is the last job we completed before we move out of the house and into the van, so let's get into it. I saw a lot of bad reviews on this washing line, and they were mostly about the security of the unit once installed, so I decided to make it more secure. I'm building a frame to install the washing line onto. It was quite tricky to make this frame square because the veranda roof isn't parallel to the handrail, so the top of the two uprights went on the inside of the veranda roof, while the bottom is fixed on the outside of the handrail. I used through bolts on the top fixing points to make sure there is no chance of screws ripping out of the wood after a few months, as the load is solely on the fixings. And I used high gauge wood screws on the bottom since the load is against the handrail, so a stronger fixing becomes redundant and also doesn't leave holes on the inside of the handrail when the washing line is removed one day. I used through bolts on the main fixings for the washing line too. I also added some 90-degree brackets to each bottom side of the washing line unit. Without them, the bottom of the unit can pull away from the surface it is fixed to, putting strain on the plastic slots that the fixing heads sit within. I also used small bolts to go up through the plastic instead of using screws to add more strength. It was a little bit fiddly, but straightforward enough. I made sure everything was level, secured the unit, and then moved on to the hook bracket that holds the lines in position. Once again, the roof of the veranda and the handrail weren't parallel, so to make it as perfect as I could, I notched a piece out of the top end and then added a piece of timber to the outside of the handrail to pack out the bottom, making the upright vertically level once fixed in place. Once again, through bolts at the top, screws at the bottom. I'm just glad I didn't drop anything over the edge because it's a second story veranda and I didn't have any spare parts. I had to bring the bolts through from the outside because there is a channel that tapers in on the inside, so the bolts physically couldn't fit through. It also meant I needed two different sized bolts to secure the top in place. The piece of timber I used to pack out the bottom here is taken from a rail that I removed from the roof on the other side. It was serving no purpose, but now it is, and it's good to recycle. Now the upright is solid, I can mark out for the bracket and drill the holes for the bolts. Again, it came with screws, but I decided to buy bolts to ensure its strength. I mark my holes, pilot the wood, and then follow with the final size, drilling from both sides. This just stops blowouts and burrs. Now I can put the bracket on using the through bolts, tighten up the nuts on the back side, and it's pretty much done. Some people will say that I've over-engineered this, but I want it to last. It's got to be solid, and based on the reviews that came off the website, it needed a little bit of over-engineering to make sure that it's gonna last. That is a solid washing line. Hopefully you've learned something from this, or it's given you some tips or maybe a bit of confidence when you come to fit your own washing line. If you like it, drop us a subscribe, hit like, leave a comment if you thought it was useful, and we'll see you with the next one.